Sorry, can I just ask a question on that? And say you have a particular product, and for one client, it's going to give $1 million worth of value. For another client, it's going to give them $5 million worth of value for whatever reasons. Do you price it differently?
Yes.
Same thing exactly. Same thing exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point of sort of segmentation, to actually understand how that value differs across your segments, particularly in the B2B space. It's harder in the B2C space. It's still possible. You probably need to do it through self-selection. So you might have different packages designed for different sizes of business, for example. But yeah, the idea would be to price based on value. So if you've got one that's deriving 5 times more value, then you'd want to charge them more.
Yep.
I've got a very quick question, Ivan, if you don't mind, for Ayon.
Sure.
That's a really interesting question that was brought up previously. What happens if I'm providing the same system or the same solution to two different B2B customers, and based on the way they use it, the one's value proposition or perception is very different to the others? How do you overcome that, apart from obviously trying to engage them in the process more? But you can't charge them two different rates for the same thing, I'm assuming.
Well, you can in B2B because there isn't that same level of price transparency. And assuming these B2B customers, don't get together in the pub and have a chat. And even if they did, you could still argue that there's a different use case. What they're using it for is different to that. So, but that doesn't typically happen in B2B. You can charge different prices for the same product, depending on the value. And the idea of the differentiated value selling approach is that the salesperson, being your value champion, is able to ask those strategic questions to determine where that value is different across, based on use cases across that B2B customer base. And that's a really sort of tricky art and skill that requires, training of the sales team.
Yeah, I've got one, please, Ivan. Whilst everyone just jumps out. Well, thanks for a great presentation, mate. There's a lot of IP that you just put on the table, a complete kickstart to a lot of people's thinking, and I greatly appreciate the generosity that you've displayed, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
The next thing I wanted to say, though, I think a round of applause is absolutely in order. I have an interesting proposition here. I think SaaS has become ubiquitous, and it's a kind of a semi-question. So much so that it's become an underlying platform and an enabler for services on top of that. And I've actually got a view that the services are ecosystems potentially, and that the platform just provides an ecosystem support system on top, which is the differentiator. If you want to turn up or insource your capability, then insource it using the SaaS. Or if you want to outsource it and the SaaS has kind of been helped with, like an external accountant, for example, kind of hopping into your SaaS, then it changes up. And that allows you to differentiate, I believe, on a B2B basis, but with a really, visible value proposition. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I think that SaaS solutions vary quite significantly. Most common one is probably automation. You've got compliance. You've got so many different solutions that it's hard to kind of label it as just an ecosystem type of thing. So I think the key is that SaaS is designed to make our lives easier. If it's not making our lives easier, and it's not either saving us money, enabling us to generate more revenue, reducing risk, then I would sort of question whether the proposition is right. So assuming it's solving one of those problems, it's then, okay, well, how much does that actually mean to your business in terms of enabling them to grow? And how can we be a part of that growth? And then once we've demonstrated that value, then we can look at actually monetizing that. So